Let's go.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning. How the devil are you doing this fine day? I'm going to say a very quick good morning because I haven't pressed their buttons yet. Mark Whiting, Jim Turner and Gary Muirhead. Thank you very much indeed for being here. There's going to be quite a long preamble to the show today. I wish that wasn't the case. I wish we were going straight into the usual stuff and nonsense, but we're not. Late last night, I received some tragic and awful news. The daughter of John Mackay, one of the men killed in horrific circumstances at the Teesworks facility in Redcar, has herself now passed away. She was just 34 years old. Kirsty died not knowing how or why her father had perished. Thanks to the protracted legal system here in the UK, an official investigation into the incident remains ongoing 4 years later. 4.5 years on, and John's family, along with the family of Tommy Williams, who died alongside him, have received no explanation and been granted no closure. Of course, Kirsty's tragic and premature death is not the fault of the demolition company that was carrying out the works when John and Tommy were killed, nor is it the fault of the access company for whom John was working on that terrible day. And according to John's wife and Kirsty's stepmother, Anne, who was on the show last year, you might recall, Kirsty had some issues of her own. But make no mistake, Redcar has claimed another victim. Kirsty was about 30 years old when she lost her father. By all accounts, she never recovered. And I can only imagine what that's like. My youngest daughter is 30 now, and I know the strength of the bond between us. Kirsty, her brother, and her stepmom, Anne, have had to endure so much, too much, these past 4 years. They lost a loved one, and in the midst of their loss, they've had to watch as the Teesworks project is hailed as a huge local success. They've been told that there will be no manslaughter charges in relation to the horrific incident, and they've just been forced to wait and wait and wait. Kirsty's death won't make the industry headlines, of course. Outside of this show, I don't suppose I'll report on it either, because it's not directly demolition related. In this instance, demolition doesn't have blood on its hands, but it most assuredly does. It should have Kirsty's death on its conscience. Now, sticking with matters of a more serious nature, and I think you'll agree what I'm about to tell you is quite timely given what I've just told you. I need you all to mark a date in your diary, if you'd be so kind. At 7 p.m. on Wednesday, the 21st of February, I'll be hosting an evening show that asks one very, very simple question. Who speaks for construction workers? And given what I've just shared, who speaks for construction workers' families as well? This industry of ours employs upwards of 3 million people, and yet the fate of 99% of those 3 million people is largely in the hands of a very select few. That select few set the industry agenda. They set the pay and their working conditions. They undermine the job security of workers, and they've pushed men and women into self-employment to get them off their own books so they can be picked up and put down more easily. And they have failed to respond to the mental health and suicide pandemic that has swept the industry. Given the level of power wielded by those in power, how does a demolition or construction worker actually make their voice heard? Now, I'm going to be joined on the show by my co-host, Andy Stevens. You've seen him before, but he is an absolutely vocal advocate for the industry. But we will also be opening up the airwaves to you guys. If you have got a gripe, a complaint, or a suggestion that's not being addressed by the powers that be, then please either join in the chat or join us on the show. We'll open the airwaves to you as well. That date again is 21st of February. 21st of February, 7 p.m. Please, 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 I don't often ask this, but please, could you please share this with your workmates? I want as many people as possible to hear that. This industry is long overdue a change, and maybe that change will start right here. Now, if you were here yesterday, yes, let's get on to more cheery things, shall we? If you were here yesterday, you will know that we trialled a new slot on the show in which you guessed the make and model of a machine as it was slowly revealed. I say you, I mean Steve Williams, because it was it was Steve that actually got the right answer in the end. Really thought I was going to sneeze then. So we went away and we've decided we should refine it, and I handed it over to Fred, and Fred has done what Fred does and made it look all jazzy and snazzy. So, Mystery Machine, yes, that's what we're going to call the new slot. And for those fans of Scooby-Doo, you'll know kind of what that means. So, for the first time, here is the new look Guess the Mystery Machine. Yes, can you guess the Mystery Machine? Well, in order for you to do so, I need to show it to you. And here is your first glimpse. Doesn't give too much away, does it? I think there's another 3 or 4 of those to come. I think, yeah, it is 4 slides I've got coming, each of them revealing just a little bit more of the machine. I won't reveal the answer until the very, very end of the show, or unless somebody gets it 100% right. And just before we move on, given that we've got a new section that actually serves a purpose and actually ties in with the show, I may well be dropping the On This Day in History section. It already takes up quite a bit of time. So what do you think? Should we drop or do we keep it going? Do we drop the do we keep the On This Day in History section, or do we replace it with the Mystery Machine? I'll be coming back to the Mystery Machine in just a moment, but we do need to crack on because I've already been talking for hours, I think. So without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show on the road. I am going to say a very quick good morning to Peter McKenna, who I've just spotted coming through the chat. Good morning, Peter, and welcome back to the world of employment. Speaking of employment, if you were here at the very beginning, you'll know that our friend Footy has got a job interview tomorrow. Fingers crossed for him. Comments on the new Mystery Machine section. There's Steve saying, I love it, but then he saw what the challenge was. Jesus, that's hard, he says. Footy has a stab and says, looks like a bobcat. It shouldn't, because it isn't. And I can tell you that one person, a certain Mr. Ford, has already narrowed it down. His answer is not right, but he's close. He's very, very close. Now, while you're mulling that over, let me crack on, shall we? It is Wednesday, the 31st of January, the end of January. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony. In today's show, what Volvo construction equipment has planned for Intermat 2024, Liebherr TA230 ADTs conquer a glacier, the birth of an electric equipment company, why this dump truck body liner is up for an Innovation Award, plus we are going to be celebrating 1 year of the Develon brand. Develon, and given the we don't just throw this stuff together, the Mystery Machine coincides with that, as Chris Wall has already figured out. But before we get to all of that, here, possibly for the last time, I don't know, we shall see, is a look back through the mists of time to see what was happening on this day in history. Yeah, on this day in 1747, bear with me, I've just realised I don't think I triggered the question of the day. I'm going to do so now. On this day in 1747, the first VD clinic opened in London. Been itching to tell you that. Yes. In 1961, a chimpanzee called Ham became the first primate in space. Sadly for Ham, it was a one-way ticket. In 1981, The Tide is High by Blondie hit the #1 spot. Debbie Harry. In 1990, the first McDonald's opened in Moscow. Or the first McDonald's in Moscow opened its doors. It wasn't the first McDonald's opening. You get the idea. In 1999, the TV show Family Guy aired for the first time. And on this day in 1956, a little boy was born unto this world who would change the face of music, fashion, and popular culture. That little boy was John Joseph Lydon, better known to the world as Johnny Rotten. Still angry after all these years, and God bless him for it. Now, before we get into the real meat of the show, I'm going to very quickly remind you of our question of the day. Yes, our question of the day, quite simply, is this: which of your senses could you give up? I realise that's hard to imagine, but imagine. I can't imagine why this would happen, but imagine somebody puts a gun to your head, and in order to survive, you have to give up one of your senses. Which would you choose? Sight, hearing, smell, touch, or taste? Personally, I'm going with smell. Yes, I would miss the smell of freshly cut grass, petrol, tar, and a whole host of other aromas, but I could easily forego the smell of other people's farts, dog poo, and public toilets. But what about you? If push came to shove, which of your senses would you be willing to give up? Let us know in the chat. We'll come back to that at the end of the show. Still got a question or guesses coming through for our mystery machine, which currently looks like this, but let me spice it up a little with a little bit more. Here we go. Yes, that doesn't that clinch everything, eh? Yes, I'm sure people were sat on the fence and now they know. No, I bet they don't know precisely what that is. We do know it is a Develon. We do know it's a Develon, and I do realise, guys, that a lot of you are watching this on a mobile screen. That is actually small on my screen, which is massive. So I can only imagine you may need a magnifying glass with you in the future. But yes, that's what it is. Steve, would you care to be more specific? Let me just tell you, you're that close. If you could be a little more specific, you may have two on a row. Now, while you're doing that, Steve, let me roll this baby. In just a few months' time, the eyes of the construction equipment world, good morning, Glenn Johnson, by the way. In just a few months' time, the eyes of the construction equipment world will turn towards Paris, which is no bad place to be either, the city of love and the host venue of the Intermat 2024 exhibition. The show has been away for 6 years, but it's set to return with a bang. And one of the companies bringing that bang will be Volvo Construction Equipment. And we called up with him at the pre-Intermat press days just over a week ago to find out what they have in store at the show. And I'm delighted to share that with you now. I do need to dredge this off of my computer because it's a big old lump of a file. Talk amongst yourselves. It's here somewhere. Here we go.
From Volvo C, and I'm looking forward to see you at the Intermat 2024 in Paris. Six years that we have the show again now. So the French market is very excited to exhibit again. So we're participating as a Volvo group. So there with Volvo Trucks, Volvo Penta, Volvo Construction Equipment and Financial Services. Our main topic is decarbonization and to showcase at Intermat. We all show our technologies to reduce carbon footprint from our customers. So we show our electric lineup. Now we're starting also in the French market with the bigger machines, so we have the 20-ton excavator EC230 electric on site and the reloader L120 electric. What we also show in the French market is our prototype, the HX04. It's a fuel cell hydrogen machine, which shows the technology which come in front of us. And a big part is also like the service solution, that we have tools and solutions to help our customers to reduce also carbon footprint with different site optimizations and connected map and assist systems. I think the main challenge what we are facing now is the infrastructure of hydrogen, and but what we show with the machine is that the technology is working, and I think that's the main fact what we would like to show. We are interested and we would like to drive also the change in the world here, so it's like our aim. And of course we need to check different technologies and we're partnering up with different partners because we believe we can also do it together. If you see the machine, I think it's really great to see the technologies which you can see there, but of course also I think the big excavator EC230 will be a highlight, on also the L120. The last Intermat was cancelled, and it's an important exhibition also for the French market, and Intermat has been decided, we go there and we present, of course.
Yeah, a couple of themes of the show are decarbonisation and digitalisation. Core themes of the 2023 show, 2024 show, should I say, and Volvo, as you know, embracing both. I can't wait to see their kit in the flesh. Now, we have a winner. I'll tell you now, Steve has done it again. So this was where we left our mystery machine. That wouldn't have given you much of a clue either. Would that have helped? No, I don't think it would. But there you are. There is our friend Steve, who says the DX530 LC. Last I heard, the latest was a Dash 7. Could be wrong. You're not. That is a DX530 LC Dash 7 from Develon. And just to prove it, there you are in all its glory. So Steve managed to win the Mystery Machine competition before it actually was called the Mystery Machine, and he's won it on the inaugural run as well. So well done as well. My wife is complicating things here. The question of the day, as you know, is which of your senses could you give up? She is going for smell, possibly because she shares a house with me, or she is going for one eye and one ear. How would you keep your glasses on, love? Just saying. Now we do need to move along because I don't want to go down that line with her. Here we go.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
Now, let me get rid of that. There we are. Now, it would be, where are we? Yeah, it would be another few weeks until the rest of the world learned the new name for Doosan equipment. But this time last year, those within the company learned that henceforth, they no longer worked for Doosan. They worked for Develon. 1 year on from that momentous day, we're going to take a look at just how far they have come in the past 12 months.
We love you.
Amamos Develon.
Amamos Develon.
We love Develon.
We love Develon. We love Develon.
We love Develon.
We love Develon.
We love Develon.
We love Develon. Develon? I thought it was Develon. I don't think they even agreed in the video. I have to say, though, the Develon brand, I'm going with Develon, having taught myself to say it. Really, they have hit the ground running, and I realised they had a big build-up with their Doosan as well, but what a phenomenal year. We'll be catching up with him again when Intermat rolls around, and again at Hillhead as well, so looking forward to that. Yeah. We love Develon. Yes. We love Develon, but not everyone does, apparently. Steve Williamson Steve says, oh, blimey, sorry. Not a big fan of Develon. The leather seat is like sitting on a rock. Wasn't the most comfortable machine. That's a must for me. Comfort in it near 11 hours a day and sometimes 6 days a week. Yeah, quite right as well. Now, should we crack on? I think we probably should. I'm about to play you. No, hang on a minute. I've got ahead of myself. I'm all out of order working with two screens, I'm afraid. The Liebherr TA230 is without question, I think, one of the best looking and best performing ADTs in the world today. So imagine you were given a chance to film it in action. Where would you go? A quarry? A muddy construction site? How about a nice, conveniently located glacier? I'm not even going to bother asking whether you think that's hot. I've already made my mind up. Now, did you see the video BuildWit put up of the dozers and diggers creating bunds to control the flow of lava? Is it in Greenland, I think? I didn't. I've got to be honest. I don't watch much of what BuildWit puts out. I like the content. Not a huge fan of the presenter. I in person, he's absolutely fine. He's a smashing fella. But I realise I'm sat here doing this in a silly hat and sunglasses. But the show, I'm always mindful of the fact that the star of the show is not me. It is the machines and the audience. Whereas I think he kind of loses sight of that. Now, we mentioned the fact that Steve wasn't a huge fan of all things Develon, but Ken Hatcher says, nice light levers on the Develon. Yeah, so you get a sore ass, but you got lovely, comfy wrists. There you are. Yeah, absolutely. I met him. I've spoken to him on the phone quite a few times, but I actually met him for the first time at Connexpo. Nice enough lad. Yes, he absolutely is. But it has become the Aaron show rather than the BuildWit show. I'm being too picky. I am being too picky. Listen, he's the biggest in the world at what he does. He's doing something right. Probably just jealousy. Now, Steve actually also asked, did you get your vertical screen you was on about? Yes, that's exactly what I'm looking at. Well, I'm not looking at it now because I'm on the camera, but over here is my vertical screen. Yeah, my wife bought it for me for Christmas. It was, I don't know, 150 odd quid. Not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but I couldn't justify it to myself because the show was working absolutely fine. But I'd obviously mentioned it one time too many. So yeah, I woke up on Christmas morning with a nice big box, and sure enough, there is a vertical screen there. So just to give you an idea, maybe I'll take a photograph of this one of these days. So over here, I've got my camera. I've also got my Instagram set up, and I've got my script there. And then over here is all you guys. All of your chat is coming through. There you are. If I sit very still, Steve says he can see it in the reflection of my glasses. Yeah, there you are. That's what it is. Now, we've got here from Andy Darvell. Love the futuristic look of the Liebherr trucks. Mega Sculptio. I tell you what, whatever you're doing tomorrow, be here. Be here tomorrow. I've got a big update on all things Cabelco, which is long overdue, but we're finally getting there. But I've got something to show you tomorrow. If you like dump trucks and you like futuristic dump trucks, be there or be square. Mick Norton has asked, why are many of the modern day 360 excavators no longer offering dual pin positioning of boom dipper arm connection? If anybody knows the answer to that, I would love to hear from you. I'm just making sure I've got everything going on here. Mick Norton again, nice to see Liebherr demonstrating their ADTs in real life work situation rather than fannying around in a simulated exhibition centre. Yeah, I know. My son actually went to he went and fannied about. He did go and see it over in Austria, Germany, Switzerland. That he went to see that. But yes, much better to see it. And imagine that, I'm just going to take the drone out. Where are you going? I'm going to go and film some ADTs on a glacier. Nice day out. Now, let's have a bit of this.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
I'm about to play you a video that tells the story of the birth of an electric equipment company called Craic. The company's products are currently available only in the US where they're built and in neighbouring Canada because they're next door. But it's surely only a matter of time until they make landfall here in Europe, given our apparent love for all things electric. So sit back and enjoy the birth of an electric equipment company told via the medium of Lego.
It all started in 2013. A young man who got his degree and wanted to start his own company. He was on a job site at Fort Lauderdale Airport when he saw a need for machines to do the labor of demolition in a faster, safer, and environmentally friendly way. That young man's name was Alex Berg. Alex went searching and found a 100% battery-powered skid steer. It took some work, but Alex got the machine to his standards. Then he took his truck, got a sea container to run his business out of, and on that day, Craic equipment began. Day in and day out, he drove around the country to show the benefits of the machines, and pretty soon, people were buying them. One after another, he sold them, and it wasn't much longer before he realized that this little sea container he was in wasn't going to work anymore. He needed more space to hold more machines. So, he got himself a bigger space, hired some more salespeople, and another to help him with all the sales orders. He wasn't alone anymore. He had a team. With more space, not only did he get more of his machines, but he got different kinds as well. He got battery-powered wheelbarrows, battery-powered dumpers, and even battery-powered excavators. So soon he needed an even bigger team, all over the country and even Canada. One of his skid steers even went to the White House because they're safe to use indoors. Craic was growing, but the business wasn't the only thing they were growing. For each machine they sold, they planted a tree. One day Alex took a look and saw that they had planted over 50,000 trees. The environment means a lot to them. Craic Equipment made the list of something called the Inc. 5000, which is a list of the fastest growing companies in America. Craic was on that list 3 times in a row even. And then, COVID happened, which slowed a lot of things down for everyone. But then, in 2022, Craic did record sales, and guess what? They made the Inc. 5000 list again. For 10 years, they've continued to build good relationships with their partners, find more partners who want their machines, and even opened up a second facility. It all started in a sea container. There have been bumps in the road, struggles, and stress. But 10 years later, Craic is the #1 provider of battery-powered demolition equipment in 2 countries, with a team spread across North America. And they got there, brick by brick.
Nicely done, I think you'll agree. I've actually seen the Kratos equipment up close. If you'd like to know more, you can follow them using the link that I've put in the chat. Steve says, I love Lego Technic. If anyone wants to donate the Technic cat dozer, Liebherr excavator, and the Liebherr crane, then please contact me for my address. Listen, I'll throw it out there, and if anybody would like to do that. I actually saw a stat the other day that apparently, and I realise you kind of have to suspend good sense when I say this, but apparently Lego is now the world's largest manufacturer of construction equipment. As I say, not in the truest sense, but when you think, not only do they make the cat brands, they make the JCBs and the Liebherrs and the Komatsus and the Hitachis. They make cranes. They make listen. I just read the stat. That's all I can tell you. Let's crack on because we're getting very, very close to the end of the show. And I'd like to have a chat. So here we go. Obviously, the Intermat show will be precisely that, a huge exhibition featuring the latest kit from some of the world's biggest brands on display for visitors from across the world. But it is more than that. In fact, Intermat will also host its own awards for innovation. The organisers have already announced the shortlist for those awards. I was there. I was in attendance when they did that. I'm delighted to say we have one of the contenders for you right now. Yes. Now, a couple of things. Let me just get to the right place. If you would like to see all the other companies that are listed for the Innovation Awards, please use the link that I've just posted in the chat. And you saw that truck, that futuristic-looking truck, be here tomorrow. We're featuring that in much, much more detail. I hope you like the look of that. Jim Turner has just said, clever. I agree. Andy Darvell says, that big dump truck was like something out of Thunderbirds. All those tires, very cool. Trust me, when you see tomorrow's, and we've pieced it together really quite nicely from a couple of videos, we've got something very special for you tomorrow. And don't forget, I do, at long last, have an update on the SK1300 that is now working down under with the fine folks at Liberty Industrial. More on that tomorrow. That pretty much wraps up the main part of this morning's show. I am going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into the chat to see what you're all saying today. If you can't stick around, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. But if you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around because I want to talk about stuff. Just stuff. And so, the Craic will be back immediately after this final word from our key show sponsor. Good morning, all. I didn't keep up with the buttons this morning because we had the long preamble at the very beginning of the show. I was too busy reading to be pressing buttons. So if I've missed you, I'm going to catch up with you right now. Let's go right back to the very, very blimey, the very beginning. First off the mark was our friend Footy. Morning, Footy, and good luck with the job interview, my friend. Ken Hatter is here as well, who has weather. There you are. There is Footy confirming. I have a job interview tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Obviously, we will miss you from the show, but that is a price I'm willing to pay. Good luck, mate. Hope you land yourself a new role. There is our friend Steve Williamson, who 2 for 2. We've done 2 mystery machines so far, and he's got both of them. So either he is sat there with an encyclopedia of construction equipment in front of him, or you guys need to up your game. But well done, Steve. Well spotted. Not the easiest either. And I'll get to it in a second, but Steve did actually ask what is the biggest Develon machine. It is the DX1000-7, if memory serves me correctly. I'm going to switch glasses because I can't see shit, basically. Good morning, everyone. Just had a lovely big English breakfast after a lovely day in the pool, sauna and steam room, and a fantastic dinner. Have a great day, guys. So Andy, as we know, was heading off to a spa yesterday, and I'm sure his lady wife is delighted that he's got up this morning, and rather than whining and dining her and taking her for all manner of treatments, he's turned on his mobile phone and he's watching this stuff. Brave man, Andy. Mark Whiting, Jim Turner are here as well. And there's Gary Muirhead. Good morning, Mark. Good morning, everybody. The 31st of January. Yeah, we made it. We made it all the way through the first month. There is, and I was talking about this to somebody a couple of days ago, there is apparently some sort of medical condition or thereabouts that relates to January. It's like the January blues, but it is a real thing. Good morning to Garvin over on Instagram, by the way, over at Mostly Diggers. It is a real thing. So you get beyond January and it should be all plain. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud. It should be all plain sailing from here. We are now just less than a month away from my birthday. Can't say I'm going to be celebrating because I'm inching ever closer to the big 6-0, but yes, it's nearly my birthday. Obviously, we started with the tragic news that the daughter of John Mackay, who was killed in just horrific circumstances up at the Teesbooks facility in Redcar 4 years ago, or 4.5 years ago now. His daughter Kirsty has now passed away as well. 34 years old, and by all accounts, just never got over the loss of her father. Would a speedier resolution and a speedier investigation have necessarily saved her life? Who the hell knows? But there is no question that 4.5 years has prolonged her agony. 8 years, which we're fast approaching for the families of Didcot, the 4 men that were killed at Didcot. Exactly the same deal there. I said when I was reading that out that Demolition doesn't have blood on its hands as far as Kirsty is concerned. I will stand by that. But I do think that Kirsty should be on the conscience of the demolition industry. But I think even more so, Kirsty and the guys that Didcot, John Mackay, Tommy Williams, should be on the conscience of the investigating authorities. I don't think you necessarily understand just how far the consequences of an accident run. Obviously, there were 2 men killed, and my guess is that some of the people that witnessed that ended up having to go through counselling because the circumstances were so absolutely horrific. But then there is that kind of ripple effect, and obviously it has contributed, I would guess, to the death of Kirsty, John's daughter, which just an absolute kick in the teeth. And my thoughts are with her brother. My thoughts are with her stepmother Anne, who, as you know, has been on the show in the past. And there is Footy sending his condolences. Many thanks indeed for that, Footy. Peter McKenna is with us. Employed, Mr. McKenna, but back with us anyway. Good to see you, Peter. Your absence has been noted. Good morning, gang. bit fresh first thing this morning. Do you know, it's absolutely bloody freezing. No, that's not true. I think I've been lulled back into a false sense of security. You remember a couple of weeks ago, it was absolutely bitterly cold. So I was going out with hats and scarves and jackets and all the things. And then it seemed to warm up a bit. And I went out yesterday just in a sweatshirt. God damn, it was cold out there. So, yes. Steve Williamson is loving the new mystery machine. And do you know how annoying it is to live with somebody like Fred? I left the show yesterday and I said to him, you know, we've got this new section that I've cooked up in about 5 minutes flat. And I could do with some kind of introduction to it. But he said, what are you going to call it? I said, well, you know, it is about a mystery machine. And he went, oh, like Scooby-Doo? I said, yes, just like Scooby-Doo. It took him about 20 minutes to compile that intro. We'll be back tomorrow with another mystery machine once I've decided what it is. Maybe next time I will make the windows a little bit bigger. I am conscious. Listen, it's a learning curve. I would still like to make that look better. Not the intro. I think the intro looks fantastic. I'd like to make the actual thing itself look better, and I will be working on that. But maybe I do need to make those little windows just a bit bigger so you can actually make out what you're looking at. Because despite the fact that it was a 50-ton excavator, Footy thought it was a skid steer. So there you are. So yes, there was our question of the day. Which of your senses could you give up? I've already said. I would hate to lose the smell of fresh cut grass and petrol. Oh, the smell of petrol, lovely. And the smell of, you know, that smell. Those of you that do holiday abroad, you know that smell that you get when you walk into an Italian or a Spanish or a French restaurant by the sea, and it's a mix of seafood and garlic. That smell. Oh, to lose that would be agony. But better that than sight or taste or hearing. But we'll get on to yours in just a second. Chris Ford was remarkably close, despite the fact that was a tiny, tiny window he was looking at. The Develon 480, he was very close. I think he's maybe 2 models away, but very, very close indeed. So good effort, sir. There is Steve saying, that's a big bloody bobcat. Yeah, it would be a big bobcat. Ken Hatcher went for the Develon 210. He went down, should have gone up. Gary Muirhead went slightly down as well, actually. Develon 145 LCR, no, a bit bigger than that. Let's have a look. Who have we got? Chris Ford. Well, it won't be common sense as that disappeared years ago amongst the massive. Personally, the sense of smell. Yes, the sense of smell. With hindsight, who else? What else would it be? There you are. Very small on the phone screen, but looked like a duck mudguard in the pic. So I'll say the Develon duck. Close. Andy Dalvell. I have to admit, I didn't see that. So it's not precisely right. So I'm still sticking with Steve Williamson having got it, but Andy was absolutely on the money. He just didn't get the -7 bit. There's somebody else saying they would get rid of smell as well. Chris Ford, second guess. He went too big this time. He went for the DX 1000, which is the biggest. There is Steve Williamson gradually whittling it down. Glenn Johnson then joined us as well. Ken Hatcher waved a white flag and gave up. I wish I had thought of the common sense pun to go with this. Both Chris and Gary have picked up on it. I would give up smell, says Gary Muirhead. Mind you, some of the people on this site have lost their common sense. Ain't that always the way? There's Steve saying, not familiar with the exact spec of the Develon machines. Develon, if you're listening, make your seats a little bit softer, and could you please keep Steve Williamson informed on your latest specs, if you'll be so kind. The smell off a steak. I need my smell. Okay, Steve. Well, if you need your smell, what are you giving up? You've got to give up something. Footy says, hopefully the company I'm going to be working for full-time on the card. More than likely. Good luck to you. Mick Dalton is here as well, saying good morning, Mark. Good morning to you, sir. And there we are. That's the winning entry. My wife trying to circumnavigate the idea of the question of the day. She's choosing bits to lop off, apparently. Diggers and tractors I could name just by a colour or a sound. Yeah, although I have to say, when I did that one for today, and I showed it to Fred, and I said, "What is it?" And his first call was a Hitachi because of the orange. It's a different orange, but based on a square that big, easy to make the mistake. And there is Andy Darvell. My apologies, Andy. If I'd written all the info, I would have got it first. I wrote Develon 530 LC. Should have added all the little bits of info. Yeah, the dash 7 makes all the difference because that is what it is. I don't want to be a pedant, but if you're running a competition, I suppose you've got to be. There is Steve asking exactly that question. What is the biggest Develon excavator? And it is, as far as I know, it is that, the DX1000 LC-7. I'll check, but I think that is the case. Good morning, Ruth Anthony. Have you booked a holiday yet? We booked for up for 2 weeks in Tenerife in August. No, we're hedging a bit, Gary, to be absolutely honest with you. Obviously, I lost both my parents last year. Not last year, it was the year before now, wasn't it? But both of Ruth's parents are not in the best of health. Her mother's got MS, which is affect her walking and stuff like that, but her father has just gone on dialysis. It's been coming for years, but he went on dialysis about a week ago, and it's not sitting particularly well with him. So we were planning, and maybe we still will, but we were planning to do a couple of weeks Mediterranean cruise. The problem with the cruise is that you're out of contact for quite a while. And I know, I was in Greece when my father died, and I spoke to my sister literally moments after, and said, do you want me to come home? She said, well, there's nothing you can do. And we potentially have exactly the same situation with Ruth's parents if anything happened. She has a sister, and she could probably take care of things and what have you. But there are times. I think depending which cruise route you take, you are out of contact. You're literally at sea. No telephone connection whatsoever for about 3 days. And I know Ruth would be on tenterhooks, worried about her parents if that were the case. And can you really relax if you're worrying about that? Probably not. So yeah, we're hedging a bit. However, it does look like we are definitely going to Vegas for the Wine Expo show. We've been hedging, but it looks like we are going to be there. And I've just seen Blairim, the digger driver, over on Instagram. Good morning, my friend. It's good of you to join us. Let's have a look. Peter McKenna is also losing. Obvious answer, I think, with hindsight. Need to try harder. And yes, did you get the vertical screen you were on about? I did get the vertical screen. I'll tell you what, let's have a very quick look. Just talk amongst yourselves, because I'll do this while I'm thinking of it. Right, I've just taken a photograph of my setup, and I'll put it in the WhatsApp group a bit later on. You'll be able to see exactly what it is that I'm looking at while you're looking at me. I am going to very quickly remind you of this, by the way. That's not the one I wanted. I want that one. Yeah, Who Speaks for Construction Workers? That will be on the 21st of February. It's an evening show, 7 p.m. Myself and Andy Stevens, and quite possibly yourselves as well. I do want to throw this one open. When you think about all that's going on in the industry, relatively minor things like being forced to renew cards on a regular basis, lack of job security, and we're going to come to Dan Cullen, because it looks like Dan Cullen is looking for a job again. And, when you think Peter McKenna has been out of work and is now back in work, Footy has been out of work, hopefully is soon going to be back in work. So you've got all of that going on. Little wonder that we've got issues with mental health and suicide within the industry, and yet nobody's speaking for us. And I was speaking to Andy Stevens yesterday about this very subject. When you think about the bit of the industry that I know the best, you've got the National Federation of Demolition Contractors, who their membership is basically the the owners and the principals and the managing directors of the demolition companies. So they've got a membership of about 130 people, but the industry actually employs about 30,000 people. Where do those 30,000 go to air their views, to complain, or to make suggestions? They don't actually have an outlet. And I'm not suggesting unionisation at all, although there are bits of the industry I think would be enhanced by unionisation. But I do think that the industry's workers, you guys do need a forum or somewhere to air their views. So, as I say, 21st of February, 7 o'clock at night. Be there or be square. Mick Norton says, nice to see Liebherr demonstrating their ADTs in real life rather than fanning around in a simulated exhibition centre. I agree. Love the futuristic look of the Liebherr trucks. Mega scorch you. As I say, make sure you're here tomorrow because we've got something to show you. The lights on the Liebherr dumpers let the excavator driver know when it's loaded the correct weight. That's good. It is. Liebherr, think of everything. Mick Sauna says, morning one and all a bit late. How needed to use the local trees. Listen, I'm a man of a certain age. I know what it feels like to need the trees. The dual pin, I know, where was it? I think Mick Norton was asking about dual pins. Dual pin is for when carrying on road only, says Ken Hatcher. There is Steve Williamson pleading for Lego Technic. If anybody's got any spare Lego Technic, I have none, so I'm out of the picture. But if you've got any spare, send it up, country, please. I'll give you his address if you need it. Great vid. Yeah, that was the Kratos one. I have to say, I think they did a fantastic job of that. And I know it's a bit slushy, and maybe I'm feeling a little over emotional today, but it did feel wholly appropriate that the daughter of the marketing guy there was actually voicing the video. I think that was a fantastic idea. Wish I'd thought of it. And we mentioned Intermat, and there is Steve Williamson. Yes, can't wait. I've got to be honest with you. I came away from the last Intermat back in 2018 and was very impressed. It had become much more international than it had been in the past. It wasn't just a French show, it was a proper international show. And then obviously COVID prevented the last one from taking place. I was looking forward to Intermat, and then I went to the press days, and when you see what the likes of Komatsu and Volvo and Liebherr and Lugong and Sany and Sunwood, you see what all of those guys have got planned for it. It's going to be well worth being there. And as we know, Steve is going to be there in working mode, but hopefully he'll get a chance to have a look around as well. We will be bringing you as much footage from the show as we possibly can. And we are working with the organisers, and we're working with the organisers to have a studio backstage. And the idea is that I will still be able to broadcast this show from France. We're working on it, trust me. Do Lego manufacture competent quality assurance staff linked to plant operator training? I don't think they do. However, what they do is they are the largest manufacturer of tyres in the world. And I realise their tyres are very tiny, but they make millions of them. And there is Dan Cullen again, looking for work again. Seems I just don't fit into this clique or gang. That goes back to one of the other points that I wanted to talk about on this show that we've got coming up in a couple of weeks' time. It is that, what's the expression? The modern expression, I guess, is toxic work culture. Whether it's the people you're working with, the people you're working for, the client, the main contractor, or actually your own boss, be it a site supervisor or whatever it might be, all of that can impact upon your working day. And where do you go? We've got one instance there. There you are. Dan Cullen says had issues with a dumbass foreman. Now, I'm going to sit on the fence here. He could well be a dumbass. It might be Dan. Could be either. But either way, we've now got an experienced operator looking for work again. Is that right? And how are you supposed to have any form of job security when either you can be let go at a moment's notice, or they can make your life so uncomfortable that you end up quitting? Where do you go with that sort of gripe? And we had an instance, must be a year ago now. I had a phone call from a guy who had concerns about the fact that several of his colleagues were under the influence of drugs on site. And he wanted to report it. He went to report it to his site supervisor or whoever the guy's rank was, and discovered that he was actually around the back of the site canteen with basically partaking of the drugs that he was going to complain about. Where do you go? There you are. This is another issue we guys face regularly on site. Yes, I'm sure it is. There is that big dump truck is like something out of Thunderbirds with all those tires. Very cool. As I say, look at it tomorrow. What was the pick today? I'll tell you what, Dan, I'll go back. There you are. That was what you had to work with. And you got a bit more, 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 and then you got that. It was the Develon 530 LC-7. Steve Williamson, second day on the row, in a row, got the right answer. Jim Turner, best of luck with getting the start footy. Yes, absolutely. My thoughts entirely. Apparently, we're due some snow next month. Not a great surprise. As I say, my birthday is in February. Not unusual for me to be looking at a white world when I'm opening my birthday presents. This is a leap year too. Is it? Didn't know that. The day is one day longer. Oh God. Last year felt way longer than 365 days. It was such a tragedy for the remaining family members. Rest in peace. Yeah, and listen, I could go on about this for hours, but just imagine that household now. Now, my guess is, Tristan Mays has just joined us actually over on Instagram. Who, as far as I know, he is currently in the States. Good morning, Tristan. Or should I say howdy? Now that you're a local. Yeah, imagine you spent 4.5 years mourning the loss of probably the head of the family. You've had no resolution, no explanation, and now you've got to start the mourning process all over again because your daughter or stepdaughter or sister has now passed away as well. Yeah. Dan Cullen says condolences to the family. I'm going to drop a line over to Anne a bit later on today, and I will certainly pass that on. 23 degrees in the cab today. Very nice too. And I'm going to tell you, yes, Tristan Mays, currently in Texas, it's 5 a.m. in the morning. He got up especially early just to see my handsome smiling face. I don't suppose that's the truth at all, but good morning, Tristan. I hope you're enjoying life over in the States. Apparently there was a house fire in the village this morning. 4 pumps and air ambulance. Don't know anymore. My old watch commander let me know. Not good. Hope everyone is okay. Yeah, well, fingers crossed on that. Who got the machine today? It was Steve Williamson again. He is something of an expert, I would say. Now we have an exception. Everybody else, just going to tell you, Tristan Mays said, glad I got up just to see that hat, mate. I'm tipping it to you right now. Yes, Dan Cullen. Everybody else has said they would happily lose their sense of smell, but Dan is going with hearing, so he wouldn't have to listen to the BS. Fair play. It was a Develon 300. No, it was a 530. Let's have a look. In the early days of the Troubles in Northern Ireland, if an armoured Alice Chalmers 645 shovel loader was required in support, the request was always for a Scooby-Doo. Where did that come from? Why a Scooby-Doo? Where I come from, not unusual to say, if somebody says, where is so-and-so, I haven't got a Scooby-Doo clue, but I've never heard it used in that context before. Big Saunders says, question of the day. My eye's not good, my hearing the same, the sense of smell non-functioning due to bad sinus. So I think I'll try and keep what I've got. That's a fair point. That is a fair point. And there is Dan Cullen also reckons maybe we should do that. I don't actually know how we'd do that, but maybe we should do that. Tractors, excavators and dumpers, engine noise and paint. I would know by the sounds. I wonder if we could get the sound of a machine and see if anybody could. I tell you what, if anybody got that just based on engine sound, I think I'd probably have to give up because that would be just too much. Let's have a look. Chris Ford says it's not good out there. We're waiting for November's money, so I've got a job creation day for a couple of men today, waiting for November's money. How are you supposed to work and live and thrive in that kind of environment? Steve, I don't know. And I don't know for one very good reason. We haven't booked it. I make no secret, we are working alongside our publishers of Route 1 Publishing, who do aggregates business, and they also do the World Highways magazine. We're doing kind of a joint venture with those guys, so they've negotiated that. We have a hotel. It's very close to the showground apparently, but I don't actually know where it is. Dan Cullen says it's ridiculous that there is no one standing up for guys who are at the bottom of the list, afraid of speaking up. As you know, I never back down to these people that look down on others. The problem is, you Dan, you are very much in the minority. I can't get unionisation out of my head, because having been a union member in the past, I left the union because I think they overstepped the mark on a number of occasions. So that's why I left. So I do still have a kind of bitter taste towards the whole unionisation thing. But if not union, then who? Who is going to speak up for, the people that are enduring toxic work culture, that are being forced to live and work in terrible conditions, that are being treated like slaves effectively? Who is going to speak up? We will be discussing that, as I've said, when I get to there. 7 o'clock, Wednesday, 21st of February. Be there if you could possibly. Mick Saunders says, Mark, you know as well as I do, I've watched this over the years, no matter what the blokes on the ground say or ask, no one wants to know. The NFDC are a club to themselves. The major contractors are only interested in profits. No unions are not the answer, but it does need a body in construction demolition to stand up for the workers. And that is exactly my point. And I think like Mick, I don't actually have an answer. I don't believe it should be a union because of all the baggage that comes with a union. And obviously, and I know this was discussed in the WhatsApp group last night, and I think it was Jim Turner that picked it up. As soon as you've got any kind of organisation, there is the potential for corruption. I don't actually know what the answer is, but there does need to be an answer. Jim Turner says, we as human beings don't always gel with each other. Whenever things don't suit, just air your views. If things don't change for the better, then vote with your feet, try somewhere else. That goes for work, friends and relationships. It does. The issue, I think, Jim, and you know as well as I do, I agree with everything that you say, ever. I think the issue there is, if you've got friends that you believe are toxic, you can avoid them. And I have done in the past. Relationships, the reason I've been married now for close on 34 years, is because I found the one that I could get on with for the rest of my life. There were others before that I couldn't get on with the whole of my life. The difference is with work is you need to work. I largely go through life without friends in the truest sense. I'm not down the pub of a Friday evening because I don't have somebody to do that with. You can get through, but you still need to pay your bills. And unfortunately, my belief on work, particularly within demolition and construction, is the fact that working on site, is largely an unpleasant experience. I know there's exceptions, and I know a lot of you guys will, oh, actually, you know, there's Steve. He sent me a video this morning. It looks like he's working on the surface of the moon. Very remote location. He's got the heating cranked up. He's listening to this old nonsense, and he's probably having a fine old day. But, you know, there is a lot of people out there that are dreading going to work, and bearing in mind the nature of that work. You know, if you're one of those people that is working away from home, you don't have an escape. You know, when I've worked in office situations a long time ago now, but I've worked in office situations where there were people there that I didn't get on with. But 5 o'clock, 5:30, 6 o'clock would roll around. I'd mutter, "Fuck you," under my breath, walk out the door, and I wouldn't see them again for 12 hours. If you're working away, you don't have that escape. Dan Cullen says, "Have a wonderful day, guys. I'm on the hunt, must do calls and see if I can find a new seat, but I'm looking for a permanent one directly. Good luck to you." Face fit, there's always been an issue on site, not just with masks. Sometimes you gel, sometimes you don't, but that's life. Move on and forget about it. The issue you've got, though, and going back to some of the things that we were discussing back end of last week with our wrap show, obviously we are getting, you know, the work is harder to come by, and according to one report that I read, I think it was yesterday, we are likely to be in the current state with, you know, insolvencies and that kind of thing up until about 2025. So we've got a good year or more. Maybe 18 months ago, you know, immediately post-COVID or whatever it might be, if you found yourself unemployed, not really a big deal because there'll be another job coming along in the next half an hour. The harder it gets out there, the less likely that becomes. And, you know, you could end up, you know, throwing your teddy bear out the pram, quitting the job, and then finding out there's nothing else to go to. What happens then? There's Peter McKenna says, it's 6 degrees outside and 10 in the cab, front window open as I'm working with the groundworks team. I'd close it. Don't care. Far too cold for me. During the late 90s, early 2000s, I was involved in the moves in Northern Ireland. The threats we had off the IRA were astronomical, even to the point they had decoys sat in the cafe in the morning trying to stop you from working. It was quite the place, wasn't it? I went over to Belfast at the height of the troubles for work, not for pleasure, and it was very, very unpleasant. Is not the word, because, you know, the people that I spent time with, and, you know, we went into the pub and everything else, and yes, I kind of kept my head down because no mistaking my accent and stuff like that. But, you know, the people by and large were absolutely fantastic, but you kind of had that looking over your shoulder thing going on. Dan says, have a wonderful last day of Jan, lads, and stay safe. Be happy, stay warm. Good call. Peter McKenna says, I've seen good and bad sides of unions. Me too. And it was the bad side that ultimately made me say, enough. But as I say, if not unions, then who? I think I could recognise the Cat D8H dozer donkey engine, a main engine startup noise, is ingrained in my subconscious even after all these years. The only one I can say that I have that with is the sound of a Volkswagen Beetle. I can pick one of those out at a mile, mainly because I had one, but they do have a very, very distinctive sound. And I literally, if I'm walking along the street and one is coming up behind me, I'll literally, oh yeah, there it is. I feel we need a union, but with a difference. They need a guy who's been through the mill in construction who knows what's going on. Yeah. And I don't want to come across all commie here, but when you think about it, a lot of the regulations that we are required to abide by, things like competence cards and training and when those cards are updated and all those kind of things, they don't really begin with the training organisations. They are just the go-between. They have originated with groups like what used to be the UK Contractors Group, but is now Build UK. Build UK is a conglomerate of some of the biggest contractors in the country, and they get together in their very posh boardrooms, 10, 20, 30 of them, and they decide the fate of the industry in whatever form that is going to be. That 10, 20, 30 people are dictating the rules and regulations for more than 3 million. And when you've got things like Red Diesel is a bad example because that ultimately affected the owners of the companies way more than it affected the actual workers themselves. But things like training, when somebody decides that actually everybody needs an MVQ, and no matter how much experience you've got, no matter how long you've held your previous card, you now need to go and sit another exam. 3 million people should have turned around and said, fuck off. Shove it. No, we ain't doing it. We ain't doing it. If you want us to do it, you pay it. You pay for it. And not only are you going to pay for it, you're going to pay for our time to do it. 3 million people against 100 and, let's say 50, 60 people that run the industry. It's no contest. It's an easy set of math. 3 million, no, we're not doing it. On your bike. We don't have that. Not an employer or organisation person, make it a free service and do a weekend collection of candidates. And then if get enough members, we can possibly do something we need to stand up for. Yeah, the problem you've got, and listen, I'm not putting myself forward here. I want no part of it whatsoever. The problem is that an organisation representing 3 million people will unquestionably require administration. You're going to need people basically doing the work, bringing people together and organising events and, writing letters to MPs and all that kind of thing, all of which costs money. And the trouble is, as soon as it costs money, you then have the potential for fraud and corruption. And I don't actually know the answer. If anybody's got any answers, I'd love to hear from them. Question of the day, sound. It could... if I couldn't pick one, at least there are subtitles that work a lot better than they did years ago. So think I'd cope. You're going hearing, are you? Okay. No, that was one I was after. The number of plant operators holding Unite type union membership can be counted on two hands. When employers revert to directly employed operators, that is the time to seek universal membership of a trade union. But there is another issue. And I think we've all stood idly by and allowed this to happen under our own watch. Back in the day when I first started writing about construction equipment and demolition, everybody employed their own people. Balfour Beatty would employ thousands and thousands of people. Blackwells would employ thousands and thousands of people, and so on down the line. They had their own plant fleets and they had their own operators. And that's exactly how it used to work. And then quietly and very cleverly, they gradually started to push people out the door. We don't want you on our books. We'd rather have you on 0-hour contracts so we can pick you up and put you down as and when we see fit. We don't have to pay for your sick time. We don't have to pay any health benefits or anything like that. You are now self-employed. Think of the benefits to you, Mr. Digger Driver, of being self-employed. But it was only when they'd actually managed to pull that off that they then said, actually, and I know this isn't the case anymore, but things like PPE, oh, that's your problem. Training, oh, no, that's your problem as well. National health, oh, no, that's your... Everything became the problem and the cost of the working man. And again, we said this yesterday. Somebody mentioned about the protests that are going on in France. And the French are very good at protesting. But we in construction and demolition, we are 3 million strong. Why aren't we doing the same? Why aren't we protesting? Why aren't we taking to the streets and saying... But bearing in mind, we're losing 600 odd people per year, possibly more, because we don't actually have properly official figures. We're losing 600 people a year to suicide within this industry in the UK. 4 times, or almost 4 times the national average. We should be, it should be front page news, and we should be taking to the streets to protest about that, and we're not. Australian earth moving just joined. I don't know what time it is in down under, but good morning to you, or good evening to you, or good afternoon. I'm going evening. I reckon it's evening. Steve Williamson says, if I had the window open today, I'd be sandblasted. I saw the conditions. Mick Saunders says, did bandy about an idea a few years back, but I basically got the same answer from many who I know that most employers said to them, if you join a union or a pressure group, then you can F off. So it seems nothing changes over the years. The mentality of the demo firms still stuck in the dark ages. Does that not encapsulate precisely the issue? If a demolition company or a demolition company owner can be a member of the National Federation of Demolition Contractors or the Institute of Demolition Engineers, but if you, demolition worker, decide that you want to join a pressure group or an organisation, you're out. There it is. That is it, right in a nutshell. That is precisely what it is. Footy says he's also the same with Harleys. Yeah, Harleys do have a very distinctive sound. I know they sound a bit farty, but I like it. Mick Norton says, I thought the dual pin position for boom dipper arm on a 360 was to change the geometry and alter breakout forces, though boom height for trailerized road travel a consideration. If anybody can shed any light on that, please let us know. I'm not a fan of the union, says Steve Williamson. Nor am I, just to be clear. I feel they destroy a company for something one man has complained about. I worked for a small family business and one guy was in the union. He would work overtime, didn't do this or that because I know my rights. I'll get the union. And unfortunately, isn't that the modern world? I don't want to go off on a rant because we've already been talking for an hour and 18 minutes. I don't want to go off on a rant, but every time a potentially positive change is made now, it seems that somebody will come along and spoil it. I'm just trying to think of an example. You think about, obviously, it's a big issue at the moment where we're talking about trans rights. Don't care, doesn't affect me. So do what you like. It doesn't enter into my consciousness at all. But trans rights. So you've got some people that are, they are being discriminated against at work because they are trans. I think it's all absolutely 100% right that they should be able to say, hang on a minute, I realise you don't necessarily agree with the trans issue, but I am a human, I am capable of this job, you should not be allowed to discriminate against me. And I think that's absolutely fine, they should be able to say that. But you then have the problem of those that will basically go looking for trans issues about which to complain. You have exactly the same issue with racism. There are some people that are absolutely suffering from racist abuse, and all of the very worst bits of racism. And they deserve to be protected. They need to have their rights heard. They need to be given the equality that I don't even think deserve it comes into it. Human beings. They are human. I'm human. We should all have the same rights. No question about it. Trans, racist, black, trans, whatever you happen to be, should all be the same set of rules. But you will have people that will use race, same as gender, same as anything else, to pursue their own issues. And I think that's the problem we've got there is, and that's where I fell out with the union. If you're going to represent the whole, that's absolutely fine. But I mean, one of the issues I had with the union when I was in employment, I arrived at work one day, and all of my colleagues were stood outside the building. No idea why, but so what's going on? Oh, we're on strike. Why are we on strike? And that we had back in the day. I don't know if this applies on all unions because I'm not an expert, but we had what was known as a father of the chapel. He was the head of our branch of the union. I said, they fired him. Why did they fire him? Well, he's currently off sick, but he came into the office to do some union work. And I just thought, well, how stupid is he then? You know, if you're off sick, you know, you're claiming sick benefits, but you've turned up for work to go and do your union work. So I went to work, and sooner or later, everybody followed me. So they don't actually have, you know, they're not universally correct. And as I say, I don't believe that a union is the answer. But I do think that the industry should have some representation. And again, going back to the bit that I know the best, you've got the National Federation of Demolition Contractors who represent the company owners, about 130 of them. You've got the Institute of Demolition Engineers. Their membership is more senior engineers and that kind of thing, but there's maybe 600-700 of those. But who speaks for the other 30,000 that are in that industry? And they should be doing exactly that. I've just seen Natalie Huxtable has just joined us over on Instagram. Is that the same Natalie Huxtable? Didcot Natalie Huxtable? I don't know. Natalie, if that is you, good morning to you. Thank you for joining us. Peter McKenna says the road transport industry, all drivers need 35 hours training every 5 years, paid for by the employers if employed, even for the hours spent in the classroom. If employed, you can claim the cost of the training, but not for the loss of earnings. McAlevey Demolition just joined us as well over on Instagram. Instagram's getting very busy this morning. Good to see. Jim Turner. It's easy nowadays. We have an industry organisation we can all be members of. We all get to vote on every part of it. Every issue put forward through secure login identification. The decision goes with majority decision on each subject. That's the only fair way to do it. Yeah, think about that. Because part of my discussion with Andy Stevens when we were talking about planning this show that we got, and it is, I'm just going to confirm, it is Natalie Huxtable, Chris Huxtable's sister. Chris was one of the four guys that were killed at Didcot. Natalie, good morning to you. All the very best to your family. Thank you for being here. We were talking about trade associations and, you know, what do they actually do in this day and age? And you know, I have major question marks over whether they serve any purpose at all. And a lot of what they do in a day-to-day process, you know, you have a president who has a medal around his neck, and you have a vice president medal around his neck, and you have a second vice president medal around his neck, and they meet in these fancy locations, and it's Mr. President this and Mr. President. It's bollocks, it's complete bollocks. And all of that stems from the fact that the NFTC, as an example, the NFTC was started at the height of the Blitz, so 1941. So it started at the height, you know, everybody had done national service, or pretty much everyone had done national service. A lot of people had served in the army. So when they came out, you know, they'd been exposed to things like the officers' mess, and they'd had medals and stuff like that. So I can understand back in the 40s, the 50s, and even the 60s, the desire to have, you know, cigars and port in the oak panel rooms with their medals on. I get that. 85 years ago, you know, 85 years ago, we could not have had this conversation, not even on the telephone, because you couldn't do this. We now, as Jim has rightly said, you know, if you could organise the industry, you know, here's an issue that is affecting the industry. Here's all the email addresses. Send out. What do you think? Vote on this. Yes, no, don't know, whatever it might be. You've got an instant return there. I think that would be a good way forward. Can you work an extra hour today to help finish this job? Union guy says, no, I don't need to. Union says this and that, get stuffed, my opinion. And your opinion is as valid as anybody else's, Steve. And as I say, I have worked alongside people, you know. I mean, we had one guy who was went back when I was working in an office. He was a chain smoker like you wouldn't believe. And when I first started working with him, it was permissible to smoke in the office. And he had an ashtray by the side of him, you know, huge pile of dog ends in it. And this is no word of a lie. He would be smoking a cigarette, but if the phone rang or if he picked up the phone, he would light another cigarette, even though he was already holding another one. He had it really bad. Now that was bad enough. But when the day came that the company said, we are banning smoking in the office because of passive smoking and everything else, we've set aside a smoking area, funnily enough, it was actually indoors, but it was away from the work area. We've set that aside. So this guy, because he was a chain smoker, he was vanishing for like an hour and a half every day. We were all sat there bashing keyboards, and he's off having a fag. As I said, as soon as you start to talk about people's rights and everything else, you do get that situation where people will abuse it. I'm just going to say a very quick word to Natalie Huxtable. Natalie, just to let you know, I don't know if you were here, I don't know what point you joined, but at the start of this show, we were talking about the fact that the daughter of one of the guys that was killed at Redcar 4.5 years ago has now passed away as well. So, obviously we're in the build up to the 8th anniversary of Didcot. My thoughts are with you and with your family. We will be going back over very old, very, very old ground by the time the 23rd of February rolls around. But, obviously you would know better than most precisely what Kirsty Mackay was going through. If you do get a chance, maybe you'd like to go and have a look back at the beginning of the show. LR35 is going to kick construction industry up its arse to be a self-employed machine driver under the eyes of law. Under the eyes of law, you need to own your own machine. How many self-employed plant ops have their own machine? Very few, I would say. Jim Turner says those that don't vote don't care, so they'll get whatever the ones that vote decide on. Same as it ever was, really. No one wants to lose a day's wages and are afraid to speak up against these organisations. And therein lies the issue. Despite the fact that, workers like those that are watching this show outnumber their bosses by about 2.999 million to 1, they have your job security in their hand. A bit like holding your testicles, and can give a bit of a squeeze. Just heard back from Natalie Huxtable. As I said, Chris, her big brother, was one of those 4 guys that were killed at Didcot. And she just said, my brother John has died too, 40 years old. I'm the only child left now. This is where and I've said this before, and Natalie, my apologies because you'll have heard this before. This is where I struggle with this as a pastime and as a job. I came to this with a bit of knowledge about demolition, a bit of knowledge about construction equipment, and a platform. That was it. I'm not in any way equipped for dealing with grief and bereavement. Wasn't good at doing it myself and doing it with others. Yeah, Natalie Huxtable, up until a couple of years ago, she was the little sister to 2 big brothers. Demolition robbed her of one. Now she's lost the other one as well. Which kind of makes me wonder. I mean, she's over on Instagram at the moment, and she is watching this. I don't suppose she's got any interest in anything we're talking about whatsoever. But there is a connection, I guess, now. Ironically, quangos like the CLC, CSCS and CITB are still always ultra keen to include the unions on their various committees, despite the unions not representative of swathes of the construction workers. That plays into both, doesn't it? We must have the unions. Thank God the unions don't speak to anybody. Young ones, can you go shovel that out? I'm not doing that. Get a digger. My God, if I said that years ago, I'd have been told to get to fuck. And I'd shovel that hole out in record time to impress, not to complain. I listen, Steve, you are but a child compared to me. I went to school at a time when, it was not irregular for a teacher to just basically belt you around the back of the head. Did it hurt? Yeah. Did it get your attention? You're damn right it did. And now, I caught the very beginning of it. You hit me and I'll sue. When I was a kid, it started out. I'll tell my dad. Go on, tell him. Because by and large, your dad would go down the school and say, he said what? Yeah, he deserved a clip round the ear. I'm going to give him one myself. And now we don't have that. Steve Williamson says, if I own my own company, I would 100% not employ a union member. Natalie Huxtable says, it's the respect you've shown since it happened every year. Thank you. Natalie, no thanks necessary. No thanks necessary. It has become, Didcot has become the defining point of my career. It really has. When it is finally resolved, I will be able to retire. I'm not planning to, but I will be able to retire with a clear conscience, because it will be over with. But I will stick around and be a pain in the arse of just about everybody until that day comes. But as I say, Natalie, I will be speaking to and possibly for you again in 24 days' time. That's true. All it takes is one person to cause upheaval on a job, but if it's one guy speaking about many people on the same job, even other races, it's madness. Life is difficult enough without these arseholes making it harder. That is certainly true. If there is a war, all this BS won't count for nothing. When you look at old newsreels, there are people going through dustbins for food. Don't believe for 1 minute it could happen here. Again, going back to the modern generation. We had people 85 odd years ago lying about their age so that they could join up and go and fight for king and country. Imagine that now. We've decided we're going to go to war with the Russians. Go down to your local sign-up office and we'll dispatch you on a... Do you know what? No, I'm feeling particularly triggered today. Yeah. Dan, thank you for another fantastic show. Thank you. You're very welcome. NFDC 1941 was Adolf the first president. He laid waste to a lot of the country. Funnily enough, the legend is that the NFDC was actually created at the behest of Winston Churchill. There is no actual physical proof that was the case, but it does make for a nice story. And it was, the NFDC basically started in London to clear up after the Blitz. So, as I say, good story. Mick Saunders says, keep strong, Natalie, you're still in our thoughts. Well said, Mick. I totally agree. Peter McKenna says, and Natalie in our hearts and minds. Mick Saunders also says, I know, mate, no answer or words to say. Sorry for your loss, Natalie. Yeah. The very fact that we're still having this conversation, Natalie should be completely able to ignore the demolition industry 8 years on. It's certainly not done her any favours, and yet here she is. Footy says, like I said earlier, please send my regards for the loss of the family. Condolences, yes, we'll do that. We have some agency guys at the site, and they moan when they get told, we don't need you for a few days. Well, I'm sorry, that's the disadvantages of being with agencies. If you don't like it, then get on the books with the company. How easy is that these days, though? How easy is that? Listen, I'm on the very periphery. I'm over here looking in. But how easy is that? Are people still taking on workers by and large, or would they rather have you in an agency where they can, as you said, pick you up and put you down? Jim Turner, being subbies keeps the wages and the wage rates up. I always found lads on the books seem to work for less money as they think their jobs are safer. But the reality is that, and when work dries up, they'll be out just as quick out the gate as the subby firm. What keeps you anchored in a firm is how much money you make them on a daily basis. Yeah. And there's Dan again, rounding that off. Sorry to hear of your loss. My condolences to you. That's aimed at Natalie Huxtable. Right, people, I think that's going to be enough. That's an hour and 35 minutes of whatever the hell this has been. I'm going to go and do something useful. But as I said, don't forget, we've got this one coming up, 7 p.m. on the 21st of February. Be there or be square. A couple of days after that, we will be doing a dedicated live stream. This show will basically be parked for one day because we'll be doing a live stream dedicated entirely 100% to Didcot to mark the anniversary, the 8th anniversary of that. I've already written a couple of articles that will coincide with that, so keep an eye out for that. Mick says the dog is licking his lips, so offer a quick liquid lunch. Be safe, people. Yes, please do be safe. But as I said earlier, make sure you're here tomorrow. We have not one but two absolute banger videos for you. I think you're going to enjoy both of them. Until then, everybody, go and have a fantastic day. Don't join a union, maybe, but do think about who actually speaks for you, because we're going to talk about it in a couple of weeks' time. Till then, everybody, have a fantastic day. Everybody over on Instagram, particularly Natalie Huxtable, thank you very much indeed for being here. I'll be back tomorrow for more of the same. And I'm going to say, as I'm walking out the door, Ivory Demo has just joined us over on Instagram. I'm afraid you've missed the show. Kay Smitty, you as well, sir. Thank you very much indeed. Kay Smitty, 91. Everybody, go and have a fantastic day. I'll be back tomorrow, 10 a.m. UK time. Be there. Be square. Be whatever you like. It's a modern world. See you then.